the Eexotik build. I already have all the power stuff ran, and I have 4 fans. We have 2 intake and 2 exhaust. The power supply's in there already. It's a Hive 650 watt modular power supply. And we have all our components here. We have our graphics card, motherboard, our hard drive, SSD, processor, fan, RAM. We're gonna bust out this awesome motherboard. So first thing, we'll go ahead and put our processor in. So we have our Ryzen 3 2200G. First thing, you open up the socket, you just put it straight up like that. It doesn't have a pin on the corner. Is your arrow corner. So you just line those up and you place your chip in there, and you want to be very careful here so you don't bend any pins. And then you just bend this arm down and hook it underneath. As you can see, we have 4 screws on this processor fan, and you can see we have clearance from our RAM slots as well. But these brackets are meant for the quick release type of fan, which we are not using, so we do have to remove these 4 screws. Took our bracket off, and you can see our back plate kind of sticks out a little bit. They're over here. Fan already has some thermal paste on it, so I'm gonna go ahead and use this one. If I prefer to mount it this way since it kind of sticks out a little bit, and we have the CPU cable, and you can see it's still long enough. If we do it this way, this AMD logo is a little closer to the RAM, and then there's a little more slack on the cable. So, but you just gotta line it up, and then you just tighten it down evenly. And those springs kind of rotate in there, so they do make a little bit of noise. No big deal. And once they bottom out, you don't need to tighten them too tight. So there we go. You can see there's no lateral movement, so that means our processor is making a solid connection. So we put that on CPU fan. Typically have our CPU fan listening to the CPU temperature, and then we usually set our case fans for the motherboard temperature. So if the motherboard starts to heat up, the fans start to heat up. And we have 2 sticks of RAM, but then you have to notice there's a notch on the RAM, and you can see this way the notch is not lining up. So you actually need to flip it this way to make sure the notch lines up. So then you just push down on your edges, because you don't want to push down on the heatsink, because the heatsink can detach. And then the clips close automatically. So that RAM is seated. And then same thing, you gotta line up the notch. So there we go. Got everything that was inside the base. These are screws for the M2 drives. That's if you're gonna put an M2 hard drive. But we're not using M2 drives in this build, so I'm just gonna put this in our baggie of all our extra stuff in case James wants to add an M2 drive later. We are in place, so now we can tighten our motherboard screws. Okay, the motherboard is mounted, but there's 9 total. That one in the corner is really difficult to get to, so I do recommend either the kind of screwdriver that holds the screw in place or a magnetic tip. But it's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So once your board is in place, then we can start on the graphics card. They come with this little plastic to cover your ports and the lower portion. So we'll take off this one for now because that's how you get it in the board, and then you want to make sure your PCI slot lock is down. And then same thing as the RAM, once you push it in, it kind of clicks in. And you just get your 2 screws. The PCI lock. So, and then our thumb screws. You just press down on it. This is just an extra support bracket. Since our graphics card didn't need an external power, we can go ahead and tuck this one away. And then later on, if you want to change the graphics card, you can just cut the zip ties and then run the cable through and connect the power. This system fan header is super crammed in there, and it's like almost impossible to connect. So I moved the cable over a little bit, and we're actually going to run it on CPU fan optional. So cleaning up some of the wiring, I got the motherboard power connected, the CPU power connected. The hard drive is pretty easy, just goes in this little slide tray, and you just pinch, pull it out, and instead of putting screws, you just kind of gotta pop out these sides. Just make sure the holes line up, then you can close this little edge again. And same for the other side. For this one, I want our cables to be facing downwards, so we're going to flip it this way. So I'm just going to press it against here, and then you just line up those holes. So boom, it just slides in place, and tuck. We've got a nice little wire tuck of the CPU cable under there. USB, and then we have our Gigabyte G connector, which we just connected the hard drive LED and power switch. You just line up the plus and minuses, and they just clip into the harness there. This case doesn't have a reset switch or power LED, so then you just plug that in, and then our USB 3.0 header. We'll kind of tuck these wires back, and then HD audio. There we go. So those are for our power switch, our front USB, and our front audio ports. So you can connect your headset and microphone right here, and you can also connect them right here, mic and headset. And these ones are if you have surround sound, or you also have optical audio. So you could even have your speakers connected in the back, and then have your headset connected up front. So we have 2 SATA ports, and we have 4 SATA ports all right here. I know it's kind of hard to see, but that's the data connection for our hard drives. So they have like a little L shape to them, so you gotta line that up. Same thing on this side, we have an L shape, and there's an L shape tab on the hard drive. So you just line that up. And same thing with the power, it's got the little L. Usually it's on the opposite side, but it's the same SATA cable for the SSD, power and SATA. I put the SSD on this one, and then these 2 are for hard drive ports down here. So we got power and SATA, and then I have 2 right here. In case you want to add another hard drive, you just got to slide this tray out and put it in just like the other one, and then just connect these 2. This one's for the color change LED strips that we're adding. Connected our fan hub. The port 1 is white. That's the reference speed that it takes its signal from, so it knows how fast the fans are spinning. So you do need to make sure you have one connected there. And then this one goes to our motherboard. Remember, we connected it to our CPU fan optional. And then these 2 are for the front fans, and these 2 are for the rear fans. Then this goes to our SATA power down here, and that's how we feed our modulated power to our fans. And this goes off of whichever temperature you choose, either the board or the CPU, and the fans will speed up depending on heat load. We have our fan hub in place, and I shortened up all these cables. Just kind of clip off the excess. If you do upgrade the graphics card later on and it does have external power, it's tucked in here behind these, so you may need to cut some of these zip ties. I do recommend a nice set of tin snips like this, or if you have some like a small set of pliers, you can cut these. You just got to be careful not to cut the wires, like with these small ones and stuff. You just got to be real precise. Color change LEDs, I still have to connect it to the board. Connect this to the one side of our cable, and then this to our color change board connections. These things are pretty sweet. They're magnetic, so they just stick. So I just ran it to where it's kind of coming up the edge here, and then this other one is on the top. And then we have the connection coming off of the switch on top, and that connects here. And it has a splitter, so I connected both ends. So we have one powered here and one powered here, and then this side we will connect to the board, and that gives us the color changing ability. Just line up the slots. Bam. The front panel is pretty easy. You make sure that those wires aren't hitting. That's it, you just pop it right on. And the air comes in through the top and bottom and feeds through here and exhausts through those two. Kind of has these little hook fin thingies. There's 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. And you just line it up with these, and then you make sure that this other edge goes underneath this seam here, and you got to make sure you don't clip any wires. So now we are done with the physical portion of the build. And there we go. We do have our dust cover for the power supply, and there's a top cover. I might as well put the ones inside here too. But just installing the updates right now. Got Windows installed and LEDs looking all fly. And it runs real quiet too with all those fans on speed load mode. So obviously, since we're only installing programs right now, it's going to be on low load, so nice and quiet. And we still have the door to put on to cover it, but usually when I'm still installing everything, I keep that open. And then it's got a button up here. You can press this button and cycle through some colors, and it even changes the color on the power button too, which is pretty dope. And you can even go in the software and change it to other colors that are not available on this button here. But yeah, we're done here. Oh no, go for it.